Hello, welcome to the channel, Uterine Health, Let's Talk About It. Welcome back if you've been coming to the channel a couple of times, and welcome if this is your first time here. I hope that your day is going well and that you are in perfect peace in every area of your life. So I want to say at the top of the video, I always say thank you. I say thank you for viewing this video in full. I thank you for subscribing to the channel, making comments, asking questions, sharing the video, and all the engagement that you bring to this channel. I do like to say thank you so very much for that. I also like to say at the top of the video, I like to provide my disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, and my full disclaimer is in the description below, but I am a uterine health advocate. So, uterine health, let's talk about it. So, today I wanted to discuss body mass index and what is it really and why it is important and how does it affect our uterine health as women. What brought me to this was in the last video, I gave an update to the last biopsy that I had with my doctor, the results and the next steps. And one of the things that she mentioned to me was that I need to lower my BMI. My current BMI was 31. And she did remind me, and I totally agree, that, high obesity numbers or being overweight can cause, can lead, is a major factor, I should say, to uterine cancer. So that was one of her concerns. And I totally agree with her. I do need to take better care of myself. And the last couple of years, I have not. And as a uterine health advocate and doing all of this research, I have learned through the research I've been doing since starting this channel that, obesity is a major factor in, developing uterine health. I don't want to say it leads to it or anything like that, but it's a major contributing factor. Maybe I'll put it that way. So, if you've been with me on this journey or you're new, I'm very transparent and I try to be very honest with you here because maybe you have the same thoughts and feelings that I had. And then, when we know better, we do better. When we know better, we grow, right? So I've heard about BMI in the past and I, never really paid too much attention to it. And took the numbers kind of seriously because if when I saw the imagings of it, the images never looked like someone of my body shape, right? So I always figured that those numbers were probably done in some study measuring white women, and so those numbers really didn't apply to me as a Black woman, right? So I use it as a gauge for different things, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't take it too seriously, and I never really tried to understand it. Your BMI is high. Okay, I'll work on that. I'll start working out. But I never took it as seriously. But again, since I'm a uterine health advocate and I know the effects that having obesity and being overweight, the impact it has on your uterine health, makes me look at BMI just a tad bit different, just a tad bit. So let's learn about body mass index together. BMI, right? So body mass index is normally affectionately called, BMI. And simply put, it is a simple math tool that uses your height and your weight to estimate your body fat. It places adults into categories like underweight, healthy weight, overweight, and obesity. And I do believe that BMI only measures adults. I think even after you get out of your teens. I don't think it's like right at 18 or 19, but at least it's just for adults. Lord knows our children have enough going on. They don't need to be BMIing too. But anyway, so those are the four things that it does. So it takes your height and your weight and it estimates your body fat, and it places you into the four categories of underweight, healthy weight, overweight, or obesity. So just, how my mind works, I try to give you information too, because I'm like, well, how is this calculated? So in the US, they multiply your weight in pounds by 703, then divide by your height in inches squared. Yeah, okay. I'm like, where did they get 703 for? But that's like going down a rabbit hole. I wasn't going down there. I'm just letting you know how the calculations are. But thank God we live in an era that there are plenty online calculators that you can put in your weight and your height, and it will instantly provide you your BMI, your body mass index for you. So you don't have to do anything by 703. And also, too, there are many modern day home scales that have the option to measure your BMI as well. I know I had a scale like that years ago, and I thought it was pretty interesting that it could measure your BMI, just putting in stuff. So there are things that you can do that you don't have to measure, whip out the calculator unless you feel like it. So remember I was saying that BMI puts you into four categories: underweight, normal weight, overweight, obesity. And so underweight means that your BMI is 18.5. So if it's under 18.5, you are considered underweight. If your BMI is between 18.5 and 24.9, these numbers, wow, you're considered a normal weight. So anywhere into the high teens and lower 20s, you're great. You are overweight if your BMI is anywhere 25 to 29.9. And you are obese, according to the BMI, if your BMI is 30 or above. And remember, I told you my doctor said that my BMI was 31. So I'm definitely obese, right? And remember, this is just an estimated body fat when they do the calculations, so yeah. But so according to BMI, I'm obese. But if you saw me in person, like from head to toe, you would see the little, the fupa, I think they call it, the belly fat, and, the arms. See my arms wiggle. But you wouldn't think, oh, she's obese, right? But according to BMI, I'm obese. And according to my doctor, this is a number that I should be concerned about. So BMI does have its limitation as well. Because it says it doesn't measure your body fat directly. It cannot tell the difference between muscle, bone, and fat. And it may not be accurate for athletes, pregnant women, or older adults. Especially as you get older, your bodies is changing, your bone density and things of that nature. And we know athletes, some of them have muscle mass and different things of that nature. So it's not an accurate measurement, it's more like a guide because it's an estimate of your body fat. So just to give you some quick history of BMI, like where did it come from and who thought to measure our body fat, right? So 3 important years I'm going to give to you. So BMI was started in 1832 by a mathematician who created this formula to define the physical traits of the average man for a population study that he was doing. So for the average white man. So women wasn't even in the calculations in 1832. So that's the first thing. Then in 1972, an American psychologist coined the term body mass index in in a published paper, noting that he thought it was a useful indicator to relative population obesity. So instead, 1972, this psychologist thought it was a good indicator, a good measuring tool to measure the obesity in the population. But it wasn't until the 1990s that health organizations widely adopted the BMI as a standard clinical screening tool. And that's when your doctors started really implementing it. And that's when you probably heard it. I'm sure our parents and grandparents really didn't grow up hearing about the BMI, but this is when it started being widely implemented. And, when they take your weight and your measurement, when you go to the doctor, they write that down and they crank out their own BMI number for you. And so that's where you get your number from. So that's why doctors constantly mention it. And again, my BMI is 31. So I am considered definitely overweight and in the obese category. So like I said, in previous videos, I provided information about how obesity is a major cause that can lead to uterine cancer, right? Simply put, because when I went down and did the research, it gets kind of technical. So simply put, the more fat cells that you have in your body, it turns into estrogen. So the more fat cells that you have in your body, it turns into estrogen. And over a period of time, being estrogen dominant can promote abnormal cell growth that could turn cancerous. So I'm going to repeat it again. Simply put, the more fat cells you have in your body, it turns to estrogen. Over a period of time of being estrogen dominant, it can promote abnormal cell growth that could turn cancerous. So I highly encourage you to do your own research on obesity and the effects it has on uterine cancer. There's a lot of articles on there. I'll go back and look at the video that I did, I do believe in June, about being estrogen dominant. And I did talk about the effects of obesity on our uterine health. So in these videos, I try to just provide you with high level, like bullet point information. Hopefully, if you're intrigued, you can then go down a wonderful rabbit hole of your own and start doing the research for this. So remember at the top of the video, I stated that I did not pay much attention or take BMI seriously, right? So as I'm learning, I decided to do an internet research and inquired about the accuracy of BMI for Black people. And I talked about research early on in one of the videos on this channel, that when you're doing your research, you need to be as specific as possible, because if you do just a general BMI search, you're going to get the numbers that you get. But, no matter your ethnicity, your race, your gender, you want to get specifically of how it affects you, because the more you know about how it affects you, gender wise, race wise, ethnicity, maybe even, geographically where you live in the world, I believe that your health could be different, right? The results of your health could be different. Someone might say, well, if you live in this area, it's cold all the time, so this, and that. So that's why I think it's important to do specific research. Yes, get the general knowledge, but then pinpoint that. It's almost like, when you have a plumbing issue or a water issue in your home. Yeah, you know that water is coming in. That's the general thing. But you need to pinpoint where that water is coming in, so then you can clog it up and then, try to provide whatever resources you need to fix it. So it's the same thing. You need to pinpoint things and get down to the root of it. So I did do an internet search, and here's the results that I found. Ethnicity heavily influences the relationship between BMI and health risk, right? So standard BMI benchmarks were based on white population, mainly white men, and do not accurately reflect the composition for everyone. So again, BMI is an estimate, and BMI, they give you those numbers that I gave you at the top. I didn't do a research on this, but I'm not even sure if that applies to women or if that's just your general BMI. Huh. So that's even something to think about too. But when I did the BMI search, those are the numbers that came up. So I guess if it's a calculation, okay. Because this is how I go down a rabbit hole, and I do a lot of research because I start asking all these questions. So, and it gives an example when I did my internet research. They said, like, people from South Asia, Black people, Middle Eastern backgrounds, for instance, face a higher risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease at a lower BMI. So different ethnicities carry fat, because different ethnicity can carry the fat differently as well too. So two things that I learned from, doing that quick question online was that, that the standard benchmarks, and that's what these numbers are, were initially studied with white men and probably if white women, and they didn't take an account for other ethnicities and things of that nature. And as we get, more in research and modern science, they now realize that, different ethnicities carry fat differently. And that if you're a white woman, let's just say, and your BMI is 31, it might be something different compared to a BMI for me as a Black woman. So, because they're saying that we face higher risks at lower BMIs. So after doing this research, to be perfectly honest with you, and what this says to me as a Black woman, I need to adjust the standard and the threshold. So I think I will still, monitor it, but I won't be stuck on those numbers, if that makes any kind of sense, you know. So from my previous research and the videos that I have posted to this channel, um, you know, it makes me realize that Black women are diagnosed, not make me realize, but it brings back to mind how I remember that Black women are diagnosed and die actually at a higher rate than white women. That's what kind of rang out in my mind when I was thinking that. And they get diagnosed with uterine cancer. So Black women are diagnosed and die at a higher rate from uterine cancer than to white women. So when my doctor tells me that my BMI is high, I definitely need to take that a little more seriously than I have in the past, and not give my body an opportunity to produce abnormal cells, right? So, as women, no matter what color you are or your ethnicity, if your doctor tells you that your BMI, because it's a standard, it's a benchmark, it is something that we need to pay attention to and not take lightly, and understand what we need to do to get back in a, so to speak, safe, healthy range. Um, yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, you know, if I'm at 31, and according to this thing, I'm, I'm I'm a Black woman, so maybe at 25 or 28, I was considered obese. I don't know, but the fact that it's 31, I really do need to take better care of this, and do my part. But let me be very clear, because in the beginning, I always state that I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a uterine health advocate, and I'm just online doing internet research just to bring these topics to light to you, to make you aware of things that maybe you never even thought of, like me and the whole BMI, right? So I want to say this: you can be perfectly healthy and within the BMI guidelines and still develop cancer and any and other diseases in your body. You know, if you think about it over a lifetime, I've seen people that was diagnosed with lung cancer and never smoked a day in their life, right? You see people that you say, but why? They were healthy, they worked out, they ate right. So things can still happen to our body. So I want to make that very, 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 very clear. Very, 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 very clear. Um, but we still can do our part to be healthy, and not just in food and exercise, but also in our environment and the things that we encounter. So there's so many different avenues that we can do to be healthy. And one of the things that you need to realize is what's going to be healthy for you. If you have a high BMI number, what can you do today, one step at a time, to bring that number in a healthy range? So again, you know, since she told me my BMI was 31, and I do see that, you know, BMI is not, it's an estimated body fat. Um, People of different ethnicities can carry their fat differently, so it's not accurately measured, but it's a good guide and a good tool to help you understand that, you know, you need to get in a little better shape. And as you get older, you know, your bone density changes with osteoporosis and things of that nature, you need to. But honestly, how I've always measured my own weight is my clothing. So I'm not a scale person. I've always just, you know, if I can still get into this, then I'm okay. So if I put it on and it's like WWF trying to put on a pair of jeans or a skirt or something like that, then that's a good indication. And then, you know, I'm not ashamed, like your arms, you know, waving and things like that. It's not a strong muscle, and I don't need to be like a bodybuilder. But then those are kind of key factors for me to understand, okay, you know, you need to, you know, work on yourself, I want to say, because you might see someone that's what you deem overweight, but they might even be healthier than you. So I think we just need to be very careful about what we think is healthy with our visual eyes, because some people are maybe sick on the inside, and they don't even know. So I hope this information was, you know, helpful for you and provided you with a little more clarity and understanding about body mass index, better known as BMI. It was definitely helpful to me. It definitely, you know, kind of let me know I was on the right thinking pattern, that, you know, it's an estimate of body fat, but more importantly, that it doesn't actually measure for all ethnicities and races. So I did feel good about that, but it's very encouraging to me, and definitely changed my mind about the BMI, you know, standards in the charts. So I'm just going to give you these numbers again so that you'll know, but you can always look them up. So if you're underweight, your BMI is 18.5. If you have normal weight, it's 18.5 to 24.9. And then if you're overweight, it's 25 to 29.9. And you are considered obese when it's over 30. So again, I hope this information was helpful to you. I hope it sparks some kind of conversation, because I always believe that we are in a point now that we need to be having open conversations about all things affecting our uterine health, since they say that uterine cancer is on the rise and will be the fourth leading cancer for women. And it definitely affects Black women at a higher rate. So until next time, uterine health, let's continue to talk about it. Take care.